This channel is part of the History Hit network. Stick around to find out more.
I am Themistocles, general of the Athenians. My story begins 10 years ago. King Darius the Great rules the Persian Empire. Incredibly powerful, he puts down the Greek rebels of Asia Minor and threatens us next, Athenians, free Greeks who went to their aid. Our resistance is organized by Miltiades, the great stratego, and my role model. Few cities help us. Practically alone, Athens stands up to the Persian invader and leads the Greeks to a victory on the plain of Marathon. A victory that brings glory and prestige to Athens.
سرزمین هایمان را بپیمایید، از خاوران تا باختران را بگردید و همه در ایران را گرد آورید. آنقدر لشکر بسیج کنید که نتوان آنها را شمرد. اسب و آذوقه فراوان فراهم کنید و آنقدر کشتی مهیا کنید که روی دریا را بپوشانند.
For Darius, the defeat at Marathon has left a bitter taste in his mouth, even though it doesn't have any real consequences on his empire or on his standing. To everyone, he seems invincible.
میخواهم به یونان لشکر کشی کنم و شورشیان را مجازات کنم. بروید. اهورا و مزدا شما را یاری کنند.
Ταουτάστας Ιουνάικας παραμυθού, ο Θεμιστόκλεϊ, τέξας ότι πάρει. Εμιλτιαδού εν μαραθωνινικέ, καθεούντεν εν αγχώσετε μούκαια. Πόσεν εν θυμιστάιτον εν δόξον μιλτιαδεν, κογκρέινε κλήθεν τα ποθανιστάι με την ιαούτον. Τι μέμφαι, έρημος ετάξεις.
Yes, I envied Miltiades' glory. He was the true hero at Marathon. He found a way to defend our city from the Persian invader and lead us to victory. But what good is honor to him now? Athens may mourn Miltiades and believe itself free from all danger, but I already know that is not the case. I only have to look out to sea to realize that.
The shores of Athens and the Aegean Sea should be peaceful after the Persian retreat. But in reality, it is the theater of clashes between rival cities. Pirates from the Greek island city of Aegina regularly attack the modest trading fleet of Athens. Hardened fighters, the Aegeans are far superior seafarers than the Athenians.
We must remember that at this time Greece isn't a unified country. It's a series of separate city-states which are often at odds with each other. Old squabbles between cities, briefly put aside for the Battle of Marathon, flare up again. So there's no single authority on the seas.
Athens, by tradition, has no great navy, no great naval skill. Instead, Athenian ships and harbours are attacked by brilliant sailors from the neighbouring island of Aegina. Aegina, not Athens, rules the waves of the Aegean Sea. Very few Athenians can imagine that their city will soon be targeted by a far greater navy than little Aegina could ever afford, the navy of the vast Persian Empire. But there is one man who does see the danger.
History Hit is a streaming platform that is just for history fans, with fantastic documentaries covering fascinating figures and moments in history from all over the world. History Hit has unrivaled access to some of the world's finest historians. With familiar faces such as Mary Beard and Tristan Hughes, we uncover the stories of Alexander the Great, Boudicca, Hannibal, and much, much more. We're committed to bringing history fans award-winning documentaries and podcasts that you cannot find anywhere else. Sign up now for a 14-day free trial, and Odyssey fans get 50% off their first 3 months. Just be sure to use the code Odyssey at checkout.
Ο Θεμιστόκλης, νέων στόλων αρτεσίλων, οι κατάπτυστο εκεινέιτα. Εξαουθάρων λουσονές και κονάσι. Αλούτος εξαιώσων αν χρόνων με ναούτικον και εκ το μεθάμινεν επιτιδεώνων. Νεου πηγές τα ητήμιότερον. Ουκ ικανάια η πρόσοδοι. Και τις πολίτες ξύλινας κάθε μισθώσας θα ηθελέσαι αν. Τα διίδια νοηθέν. Kai syli pareis. Εμπόλουν νέων είδος τότι. Ναι. Ελασάντες μεταλλών αυτο στερεότερων καί ενεργότερων παρέξομεν. Αλεθός πολεμιός εμήν. Ουκ oi έγινεται. Αλλοι περσάι. Παλίνιασιν πεδού. Τας αναριθμητούς ναούς εν μαραθωνιεδών. Ais e foberas tratiae humaros kinetae, proemas embalus e fugus oste. Toi basileitan nun uc arcese, e andembalosino i persae, catathrasan nicandese.
Darius the Great dies after 36 years on the throne without seeing through his punitive campaign against Greece, which has been delayed due to troubles in Egypt. his son, designated by Darius while he was alive, inherits a great civilization with a 1,000-year-old history.
Man hashoyor shoh hastam. Shoh buzorg. Shoh shohan. Shoh bar in zamin buzorg tordur dast. Be sare Dariush-shoh Hahomneshi. به یوری اهورامزدا من بر تخت پدرم شاه شدم.
شاهنشاه نگران به نظر میرسند.
باید کاری را که پدرم آغاز کرده به سرانجام برسانم. مصریان مرا از این وظیفه منحرف کرده اند. داریوش می‌خواست آتن را تنبیه کند و فرمان روایی را گسترش دهد. من این کار را به جای و انجام خواهم داد، اما به شیوه خودم.
To begin with, Xerxes must defeat the Egyptians and make an example of them. Egypt is a major stake for the empire, as much for its wealth as for its strategic geographical location. This first military campaign is a chance for Xerxes to show his mettle and prove himself worthy of the title King of Kings.
مردونیه، سپاه را آماده کن. به سوی سواحل نیل حرکت می‌کنیم. شورش را سرکوب خواهیم کرد. نوبت آتن هم میرسد.
اطاعت سرورم.
Ο Θεμιστόκλης, τι τρέχεις, γιατί όχι τρέχεις. Έχετε τελικά να είναι μίστο. Τι εξετέλεσας. Τι τα είναι όλε μεχανέσο, εκεί. Τι ένφωνε με φες. Ναι, εκεί. Απορριτών τύρι, ομνού.
I'm seeking to perfect the rostrum, the fearsome ram of our triremes. By covering it in bronze plating, I will make it more effective during naval warfare.
Ένα οτικον έχω ημεν το είδητο εμπόλοε κατασκευασμένον. Τότ αλούνες τα ητουνάιμεθαν. Ένα οτικον έχω ημεν. Ειγαροι Θεόης επινεούσεια.
Suddenly, the discovery of a silver seam at the mines of Laurium on the outskirts of Athens brings new wealth to the city. The seam is exceptionally rich, and the profits, as is the custom, are shared out among the citizens. And the Athenians are delighted with this unexpected prosperity.
Meanwhile, Xerxes is leading his campaign in Egypt with determination. Once the revolt is crushed, he plans to impose even harder servitude than during the reign of Darius. The stakes are high. If he can pacify Egypt, he will earn his spurs as a warrior king and merit his place in the continuity of the dynasty.
مردونیه، برخیز.
سرورم، فرعون یاغی را ادب کردید. مصریان تسلیم شدند.
Xerxes wins fame where his father failed. The new king is capable of military feats and worthy of carrying out the mission to expand the empire given to every king of kings by their god Ahura Mazda.
شاه بزرگ، اجازه می‌فرمایید فرمان استراحت بدهم. لشکریان دیگر رمق ندارند.
آری، سربازان سزاوارشند. پاداششان بده و قضایشان را 2 برابر کن.
Mardonius tells Xerxes, "You have punished the insolence of the Egyptians. Do not let the insults of the Athenians go unpunished. If you march with all your forces on Athens, you will earn such renown that no one will dare defy you."
راهنمایمان ایزدی است که ما را به پیروزی میرساند. ما میتوانیم بیش از پیش نامبردار شویم. کشور توزیع را فتح کنیم و گستاخان را مجازات کنیم. برویم بکین خواهی از آتن.
A year later, back in Persepolis, Xerxes begins working on a plan for invasion from Asia Minor and into Europe to seize Athens and other Greek cities.
از هلسپوند که بگذریم کافی است که از سمت شمال بر سر دشمنان فرود آییم.
Mardonius aims to subjugate the Greek cities of Thrace, Macedonia, and Thessaly before attaining Athens in the heart of Attica and finishing by the Peloponnese.
مردونیه، 2 مشکل داریم. گذراندن نیروی زمینی از هلسپوند. گذر این افغان از کنار قلعه آتوس با وجود طوفان‌های شدید آنجا. با قدرتی که اهورامزدا به من داده میتوانم به هر 4 عنصر چیره شوم. ما بایست روی دریا راه برویم و روی زمین کشتی برانیم.
سرورم، من میتوانم در باریکه‌ای که شبه جزیره آتوس را به کالسیدیک متصل میکند برای شما آبراهه‌ای باز کنم.
هلسپوند چطور؟
به پلی نیاز داریم آنقدر محکم که تمام لشکریانمان با هزاران هزار سرباز بتوانند از آن بگذرند.
In the port of Piraeus in Athens, we count the wounded and lament the loss of entire loads of goods. On the sea, without a maritime force, we're in no shape to defend ourselves. Here, tempers rise at the very name, Aegeans. Repeated clashes are driving my fellow citizens to detest their Greek neighbors, to forget the Persians and focus their hate on those who torment us daily. I cannot blame them, but I fear that wars between cities are weakening all Greeks in face of a Persian invasion.
Meanwhile, Xerxes has begun his preparations, which are on an unprecedented scale. He orders the mobilization of countless troops, plans his route, and orders gigantic works, like excavating a shipping channel across Mount Athos. He puts provisions in place in Thrace and Macedonia, orders the building of a bridge so his troops can cross the Hellespont, the Dardanelles Strait. Greek writers portray Xerxes as a mad megalomaniac, swollen with pride and in contempt of the limits imposed on men by the gods. In reality, his aim is clear, to punish Athens and subjugate all Greece. His plan is detailed, coherent, and far from being extravagant.
At the Ecclesia, it's a special day. Today, the profits from the silver mines at Laurium are being shared out. For many, this unexpected income is a chance to improve daily life and plan for the future.
Kalitas Athenai, kaitos theois apodomen, tu ermaiu, tu enalpistu. Kenai, meganion, drusai, paulo beo lego. Iperton, kenes, uergesion.
Alla peride kadrakmon katapoliten, perimistu henamena. Wathenaioi! Accusatemu! Dikaion, tas ekton argurion metalonimin, foitusas prosodus, sapantes tiele. Ais amenon and cresaimethan.
Apodexon abule.
Ais frieres paraskiwas denepitoi pros aikinetas polimoi dynaimethan.
Ta crimata proelometa.
Hutoi emas uk eosiphagen osson penomen.
Ti probales.
Tois gerdesi prostotei polesimferon grohometha. Upertona phenon naupegestai dynametha jagosias trieres epitoi gaion pelagos ta proteia tei poledantes.
The art of oratory is a source of all influence. I used the Aegeans as a pretext to finally build the maritime force we severely lack. Of course, I am really concerned with the Persian threat, but I failed to mention that. Amid the hubbub of the shipbuilding, I'm delighted to be building this war fleet. Each trireme will hold 200 men, and I'm planning to build 100 triremes a year. The poorest citizens already thank me for this shipyard, which offers them unhoped-for work. This fleet will be our biggest asset, and for 3 reasons. It will defend our coasts from attacks by sea. It will protect our merchant ship convoys and our communications. But primarily, it will be our offensive against our enemies. Athens will rule the waves.
In Greece, it's only Athens which is launching a huge program of building warships.
Meanwhile, Xerxes assembles a huge land army in Asia Minor, whose troops come from the 50 peoples of the empire. He also put together an impressive fleet, manned by Egyptians, Phoenicians, and also Greeks from Asia Minor. As for the Mount Athos channel, work is progressing despite difficulties. To avoid the caving in of the walls, the Phoenicians have the idea of excavating in a V, despite doubling the size of the task. Thousands of laborers work in shifts for 3 years. When finished, the channel measures 2 kilometers long by 30 meters wide and 15 meters deep.
Greeks understand that engineering, recruitment of troops on this scale means only one thing. Xerxes is utterly determined, and Greece is his target.
I have done everything to ensure that all Greeks are aware of the considerable preparations of Xerxes on land and sea. For the first time, 31 Greek cities must unite to debate on how to act. The most important, Sparta, Corinth, and Aegina, are all present. I am ready to speak on behalf of Athens.
Tesan prostenikautin stratian, majestai tolmisi.
Eantis elenu pertes patridos kalistafronei, tes eleutherias geusamenos, kai dulean arnumenos.
Hoi montoi gen, caidor dontes, videndi non paskin ocusin. Poleton elinidon poleon ta barbaru proinodo.
Barbaroi, despotei peites tai telusai, malone eleni strategoi, tautasa polisiano odioi.
Fronte endulean degestai. Antistenai demonon, dynametha, ean spendometha taneke kataspesantes. Sumachian poieteon.
Homologusin oi aiginetai, tus Helenas sapantas, alelois dialatestai.
Non hypertesco ines eleutherias majesometa.
Tona passanton imeteron dynamion hegemonian, tois lakedemoni se petrepsens symbuleo. Iatin aretin, caita pepragmena en doxois osi. Toi Leonidai, Catagen, Toi ve urrabiadei, katatalakal.
Alatenaios ai prestaines. Hode Themistocles, ploi prenautices empelotatos.
En men marathoni tus persas enikesamen. Yemin de plestai nesesi. Homos, homonoias harin. Tois tu synedriu dogmasid bethometha.
Yes, I have yielded command to the Spartans. But who was it who convinced the cities to unite against the Persian invader? Isn't that more important? Rather than linger on dark thoughts, I prefer to assess the Persian forces.
سرورم اگر قدم رنجه بفرمایند. شاهنشاها، میخواستید سربازان ما روی دریا راه بروند و روی خشکی کشتی برانند؟ آنچه فرموده بودید کردم.
After 4 long years of work, Xerxes' massive invasion plan is coming to fruition. The contingents must cross the Hellespont and join up with the fleet. Xerxes ordered the building of this pontoon bridge from Asia to Europe. Mardonius has linked the 2 shores of the Dardanelles by joining together 674 triremes. This bridge covers the full width of the strait, 1.5 kilometers. The ships, anchored and bound with linen rope and bark, are covered with planks, then with leveled earth. Wooden barriers prevent the animals from being scared by the waves. Herodotus assesses Xerxes' army at 5 million men and notes that the crossing took 7 days and 7 nights. This is surely an exaggeration. The Persian army must have numbered 1 to 2 million men. The Persians advance, supported by the fleet, which follows the coastline.
شاه بزرگ، این 3 جاسوس یونانی را دستگیر کرده ایم. حالا باید چه کنیم؟
سرورم، این مردان سزاوار مرگند.
بهشان آب بدهید.
چه کسی شما را فرستاده؟
سرورم تمیستوکل است، سردار بزرگ آتنیان.
کی؟ نمیشناسمش.
پس می‌خواهد نیروی ما را بسنجد. خب باشد. همه مردانم را نشانشان دهید. نگذارید از پیاده و سواره، از کماندار و ناوگان چیزی از چشمشان دور بیافتد.
شاهنشاه، چرا نیروهای خود را بر دشمن آشکار کنی؟
جان این 3 مرد به چه کار من میآید؟ حالان که اگر به هاستهات قدرتمان را به یونانیان فوش کنیم، بیشک هراسان میشوند و دیگر نیازی به کارزو نخواهد بود.
یا خودشان تسلیم میشوند یا میگریزند.
Indeed, Xerxes will provoke unprecedented fear. Although his army is a logistical nightmare to move around, it nonetheless captured Thrace and Macedonia with ease. Xerxes is now ready to descend on central Greece without cause for concern.
The feedback from spies throws the Greeks into confusion.
For Sparta and her neighbours in the south, the preferred defensive line is the Isthmus of Corinth, the narrow gateway to southern Greece. But to protect Athens and central Greece, two advanced positions are to be guarded: the narrow pass of Thermopylae and the sea right next to it, a narrow channel between Thermopylae and Cape Artemision. In the late summer of 480, Leonidas, one of Sparta's two kings, heads there with 300 elite Spartan citizens and about 7,000 hoplites from other states.
Eurybiades, the Spartan general, leaves for Artemisium with Themistocles and the entire Greek fleet.
What happens at Thermopylae soon becomes legendary. Persians cross the mountains to encircle Leonidas' position. He sends away his allies to save them, and himself dies fighting with his 300 Spartans. The Spartans, always brilliant at propaganda, turn this into a moral victory. They have proved they're the bravest of warriors who will always lead their allies from the front. Sparta's leadership of the Greeks wasn't undermined by this defeat. It was cemented. The fleet fights well, but withdraws after the fall of Thermopylae.
Xerxes invades Phocis, Boeotia, and besieges the cities he crosses, whose only choice is surrender or be destroyed. The Persians are at the gates of Attica. The Athenians need to turn to the gods.
Themistocles, prosere teun moi.
Oidon Peres.
Εκδελφόν, oi θεωρoi εξέλθον. Τες πτίας κρουσάσεες. Είπε το μαντέον με κάθεσθαι. Αλλες τας γιες εσχατίας φυγέιν. Αθέναοι, κατασκαθέσεται. Πάντα καουτέσεται.
Alarmed by our future, we question the gods through the oracle of Apollo, as is the custom. But how should we greet the divine announcement of great misfortune to come? With docility?
Adunaton fugen, me uper eleutherias marchesamenus. Utus pius sontes tu loigenes someda. Esfalesan pos. Deuteron resmonehen. Anankaion.
Frustrated, I convince my fellow citizens to pan an extra tax to obtain another consultation with the oracle.
Greco-Persian, neon exereu.
Once the enemy has seized all that encloses the country, Jupiter the Omniscient will grant Athena a wall of wood which will be neither taken nor destroyed. It will be your salvation, that of you and your children.
Silinanteos epenepteuthia, o katamelenudes tunesetai. Akekoas, toistonians kafesis osomeda.
Do not quietly await the large army which will come to attack you by land. Rather take flight. A day will come when you will stand up to it. For you, O divine Salamis.
Themistocles interprets the prediction in his own way and explains it to the Athenians. The oracle evoked their enemy's downfall, not their own. If they must evacuate the city and protect their army, it's so as to fight better later, on the sea at Salamis, an island close to Athens. If the outcome were disaster, the oracle would have said ill-fated Salamis and not divine Salamis.
My family, like those of all Athenians, packs our belongings. My loved ones' hearts are heavy with the idea of leaving our ancestral land. For the first time in our history, we Athenians must evacuate our city. I bid farewell to that which is most precious. My father may have disowned me in the past, but that will not stop me honoring his grave. Would he understand that Athens, without walls, will fall to the massed Persian ranks marching on her? We have no other choice. Flee or perish. I organize the evacuation of the city and use our fleet. It's aboard our triremes that the Athenians will go into exile and remain safe. May no one scorn our fleet. If we flee, it is to better attack later. The height of the flames disguises nothing of the violence ordered by Xerxes. The Persians set about destroying Athens, surely furious at finding the city deserted. I refuse to be shaken by it. Our temples may have been disfigured, but we're all safe and free. May the Persians fear the effects of our wrath when the time comes for our revenge.
Persa, o sentadina I told Mike. Hey! Tu fiu psausete! Parimoiste! I tonden guomai. Eden deseis, usikine. La crema für Pexentes jatelomet.
Xerxes is prepared to pursue the Greeks to their refuge, the island of Salamis. No subject kings dare oppose him. Everyone docilely agrees to a naval battle, all except one person, a woman. Artemisia I, queen of Halicarnassus, disagrees. She thinks it wrong to underestimate the Greeks at sea and that it's preferable to avoid naval conflict. She advises Xerxes to advance on land and capture the Peloponnese.
Xerxes is unconvinced. He wants to pursue the Athenians and their allies and face them in a naval battle. It's not the usual plan. Until now, the campaign has advanced simply. You besiege a city, it surrenders or is razed, then you go on to the next one. As Athens is in ruins, the king should sweep down on the Isthmus of Corinth to attack the cities of the Peloponnese and complete his conquest of Greece. But the Athenians are not subjugated, and the king doesn't want to leave an enemy fleet behind him. So the Persians sail their fleet to Salamis, but the Greeks are divided about what action to take.
The Persians have defied us all day off the coast of Salamis. It was easy to convince the Greeks to refuse this unfavorable battle. But now, we must debate which battle to take to them.
Athena in pretesan. Tes atikes krates antes, oi persai, nun emas en kikundai. Apeluntai nun aiporesentei peloponnesoi. Amenon entaston koran, anelten. Maron emin sumpere itsmoi pantistene majestai. En prostentes peloponnesoi. Iantonismon megaloi teke apokresomen. En podiste sontai oi persoi.
Ean titometa aspalos peuxomen eisten Peloponneson. Mendiaminomen enissoi, catergemenoi prosaneces tapate, protstetentes.
Ian epituismu majestai dianoethete. Tote salamina kai megaran, kai aiginen proieste. Epiplagiutas naus kinesantes. Umas piesosi. Ean apochoris dometha? Cathecastentas poleis catabalusin.
Temistocles. Entois agosi. Rapis detai iantis proexanaste.
Nai. Hoida poleftentis su Stefanutai. Pataxon men. Accuson mentoi.
Tension mounts among the Greeks due to the Persian 1,200-ship fleet. The alliance of the cities is threatened by the temptation of every man for himself. The Peloponnesians want to retreat to their lands.
In Themistocles' mind, if they don't fight at sea, everyone will return to their cities. The army will disperse, the fleet will break up, and all Greece will be lost.
Apassignemin sumfere. Prospersais catathalatan majestai. Entha den salamini. Ekestenos oporthmos, hutos, ost origaines polonkrates aienan. Aneuneon megalestratiaton person uc ancinethe. Ude trophas dexaitos. Esaporian situ catastantes palin anastrepsusim.
The Greek fleet has 378 triremes, about 200 of which are Athenian. And Salamis Bey has the advantage of being a real bottleneck where numbers won't matter. So the chances of success are real, if he can convince Eurybiades and the other generals.
Pos apoliandri petestai cre. Oi patricium bepretai.
Patris entadestina. Epitas diacosias naus hyperelenon strateusas. Demonon nauticoi restai entoi de toi polemoi. Eandemignois? Umas catalepeen oioites me. Catagento plethos auton, upote categen duneseste. Oi Eurybiade, episoi eso eteriates elados. Diamenas men en salamini, tu selenas soses. Edeme anatrepseis.
Eurybiades must accept. If the Athenian fleet leaves, it will certainly condemn the rest of the Greek fleet to defeat.
Kai doloi eisen. Oi persai majestai epiontes. Entas suaiteis.
شاهنشاه یک پیک یونانی اجازه جلوس می‌خواهد.
بگویید وارد شود.
ای پادشاه بزرگ، تمیستوکل سردار یونانیان مرا فرستاده که بگویم او گوش به فرمان شماست.
تمیستوکل، تو از افراد او هستی؟
حرف بزن. بین یونانی ها تفرقه افتاده و در فکر گریزند. تمیستوکل به شما توصیه می کند که نگذارید آنها فرار کنند. از غیبت یگان زمینیشان استفاده کنید تا به نیروی دریاییشان هجوم برده آنها را نابود کنید.
و دنیا را فرا بهونید.
Faced with the outsized Persian forces, it's not rare for kings or generals to go over to the enemy, hoping for leniency. Xerxes, like his predecessors, knows how to be generous with those who serve him well.
سرورم، امری داشتید؟
ماجرا رو از نو بگو.
Could Themistocles, disheartened by his allies' lack of commitment to the Greek cause, betray his own? A surprising turn of events.
Themistocles knows he must provoke a quick naval battle to save Greece. Eurybiades and the other generals agree to follow him, but they could change their minds. A battle out at sea is risky due to the numbers. That's why Themistocles must draw the enemy to where he wants them, Salamis Bay.
Xerxes was already intent on engaging in a naval battle to finish off the Greeks. Themistocles' betrayal is too good a chance to turn down. Xerxes speeds up his plan. He wants to block as soon as possible the 3 exits from Salamis Bay so the Greeks are unable to escape. That night, the sea blockade is deployed, with 200 ships to the northwest of the Megara Pass and to the southeast on either side of the island of Psytalia. His plan is to encircle the strait by surrounding the islands, then to massively attack the Greek fleet by maneuvering on the flanks and destroy it.
Themistocles' strategy at Salamis is to prevent the Persian fleet doing to the Greek ships what Xerxes' army has done to Leonidas at Thermopylae, using their superior numbers to surround the Greeks. So, Greek ships are to block a narrow channel between the Isle of Salamis and the Athenian mainland. Persian ships seem to have been lighter and more maneuverable than the Greek ships. But in the channel of Salamis, they'll be too cramped to maneuver.
Persian numerical superiority will become meaningless. There will now be a ratio of 1 to 1.
At the new day's dawning, I can only be proud of the long road travelled. 10 years of effort to establish a naval policy and build this fleet. It's now her chance to shine today, in a moment of truth that will decide the subjugation or the freedom of the Greeks. The Persians are where I want them to be, but what will be the outcome of battle? That I cannot answer.
Xerxes is based on the mainland, facing Salamis. From here, he can keep track of his fleet and the deployments for battle. Confident in his fleet, he can't wait for battle to begin.
شیپور حمله رو بزنید. اهورامزدا یاورتان باد.
Tejene drai che te pessono e persai. Nyn hemmes. Ethanumet Andreos. Tu selenas. Sosomen.
Enemy against enemy, the two fleets engage. At the first push, the massed Persian navy remains unmovable. But soon, crammed into a tight space, numerous Persian ships start getting in each other's way, ramming into each other with their bronze rams. Whole rows of oars are splintered. Tainted with blood, the Battle of Salamis ends and plunges the Persians into the darkness of grief.
Yunanyain injoyad.
خب
آماده باشید. آماده باشید.
Xerxes is denied victory at sea. His fleet is weakened by the lack of logistical support from his imposing land army. Xerxes leaves, never to have another opportunity to invade Greece. Salamis was not an ultimate defeat for Persia, but it did show the Greeks that the Persians were not invincible. The Persian Empire, far from being bled dry, would continue for another 200 years. Greece owed its salvation to the fleet of Themistocles, to the determination of a man who wanted his country to remain free at all costs.